everybody. Louise Williams here from Fraser Dove International. I'll be one of your co-hosts today, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to our second Lift Up live event, where we are launching our Women in Life Science initiative. I'm going to bring in my co-host today, which is Rosie Grant, and she is dialing in from Frankfurt. Hello, Rosie.
Hello, everyone. How are we? Thank you so much for joining live, coming in from Frankfurt at CPHI today. Been a busy week meeting some of
Really
the
busy.
Lift Up community face to face, which has been really, really fun. But
Yeah,
looking forward
amazing.
to the live today.
Yeah, thank you, Rosie. That's brilliant. So, if you are joining us for the first time, we obviously held our initial live launch at the end of September. This is obviously a new platform, a new community in which we have built earlier this year. It's an interactive broadcast where we at Lift Up really hope to facilitate community growth and bring people closer together. So we'd love for you all attending today to introduce yourselves in the comments feed, state where it is that you're calling from or dialing in from, your background of expertise, if you're open to connect. Obviously, with this audience in here today, great live community. So it's really good to kind of build this collective community together. I'll also be keen to kind of do a little bit of a short introduction into myself, my career, before obviously getting Rosie to do her introduction. But I'm Louise Williams. I'm the operations director here at Fraser Dove. I've been in staffing for about 17 years now, 8 years specifically within the life sciences sector, where I was working specifically within the kind of medical and clinical physician recruiter aspect for pharmaceutical and biotech organizations, before kind of moving into then management and director leadership roles, joining Fraser Dove last July as the operations director here. I've had quite a significant experience working for the Royal College of General Practitioners, putting together communities for chief medical officer dinners, also physician to pharma events, looking at physicians transferring into the industry for the first time. But I'm super, super excited to be one of the ambassadors here of the Lift Up community that's been developed and built within Fraser Dove this year. So without any further ado, Rosie, I'd love for you to do a little bit of introduction here to the community that's joining us today.
For sure. Hi, thank you. Welcome for joining. My name is Rosie. I'm a search consultant here at Fraser Dove and also a fellow ambassador of Lift Up. It's been quite a journey finding out what's missing, what's needed, and hopefully putting something together that's going to facilitate the growth and network of women in life sciences.
Mhm.
Um, Currently at CPHI Frankfurt, as I said, which has been a really interesting time. Typically going to these events, always intrigued to discover more about what went well, what didn't go so well, and what I feel could be improved. And from a DE&I perspective, with Lift Up at the forefront of my mind today, of course,
Mhm.
there's a few things to note. I think, there's slight lack of diversity in the people attending as well as the people on exhibitor stands. We're seeing a 25% of that being women. What's going really well is the speaker representation at CPHI is brilliant. We've got some amazing standout leaders, female leaders, who have been doing some really interesting talks. And something to look to in the future is DE&I, a hot topic to what I'm talking about with attendees, what I'm talking about with new connections, old connections, but it's not really mentioned much in the program, which is quite surprising to me. So something to think about. But
Yeah.
as I'm introducing myself there, I can see a lot of you guys introducing yourself in the comments.
Yeah.
Hello, Holly, and welcome. We've got a VP of Clinical and Regulatory Affairs. We've got Michelle here, biotech and food tech. She's calling in from Western Colorado. Hello, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining. Georgita, hello from Toronto, talent acquisition lead, and is happy to connect with you all. Um, oh
Yeah, it's
wow,
quite a
there's lots of
phenomenal
people joining.
geographical reach. I think we've got Nicole here from Tampa, Florida as well. We've got Andrea here also from Florida. I mean, we've obviously tried to make this event this afternoon UK time to try and really give that global reach to get as many people joining this community as possible today. So thank you very much. So what I'll do is I'll just do a very quick introduction into Lift Up and to what it's all about effectively. So our mission is all about connecting, inspiring, and championing women from academia all the way through to C suite across the life sciences industry. we really aim to provide the opportunity to increase people's network, give confidence to future life science leaders. Ultimately, it is a community platform to facilitate conversations, provide industry updates, and for females to really kind of share their success stories and their kind of career journeys and how they've navigated that throughout their careers. So, without any further ado, we have got two amazing speakers that are joining us today. I'm going to introduce you first to Evelyn Merchant Garcia, who is a Vice President of Product Development at BMS, Bristol Myers Squibb, and she's dialing in from New Jersey. So, hello, Evelyn.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for those of you that are everywhere in the world.
Thank you very much.
Very happy
Evelyn.
to be here.
Yeah, it's absolutely lovely to have you. So, would you do us the honours of just providing a little bit of an introduction into yourself, your career journey, and what it is that you're doing today?
Yeah, of course, more than happy. So it's been a long career. I've been 30 years or around that timing in the industry, all biopharma industry, and I'm a chemist by education, and also have a master's in marketing. I've been working from every different places. It started in the laboratories as a chemist, and then moving into quality assurance. Mostly 18 years of my career, maybe 20 of my careers are in quality organization in different levels, from solid dosage manufacturing, biologics, and others. And then I worked on manufacturing science and technology, phase 2 development to launch, moved into a more operational roles as a VP of operations for different organizations. And right now at BMS, I've been here 4 years, had a couple of different roles, and my current role is really leading the strategy for the overall product development and supply organization for the enterprise. It's very exciting to be here and looking forward to the session.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Evelyn. I think also, just before I introduce our second key speaker, it's really important for me to say that, to the community and the audience here joining today, if you've got any questions, please feel free to put them into the comments, into the feed. If you could start off by perhaps putting it with a Q, then it will really help Rosie navigate, because there's so much coming through this feed right now. So it's really easy for her to kind of navigate these core questions that we can pull out, and we'll have a really dedicated Q&A session with both Evelyn and also Lexi Piper, who I'm very, very keen to now introduce. Lexi, she is our CQO, or a CQO at Versiti, and it would be amazing if you could provide us with an introduction.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Nice to, meet everyone. I guess it's an interesting forum to make connections, but certainly This is just the start. So thank you for having me here today, and certainly happy to introduce myself and be an ambassador for this important program. So I am calling in today actually from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is still hard to believe that I'm in the Midwest, but I actually just moved here from New Jersey. So I have lived in New Jersey most of my life. So I'm seeing a lot of people on here from New Jersey and also from Boston. So my entire family is from Boston. So I'm an East Coaster now in the Midwest. And I actually did come out here for a job, but not just for the job. My kids are now grown. And, after COVID, I decided I didn't really need the big house in New Jersey and decided to start over. So my two dogs and I packed up and moved to Wisconsin and took a new job, bought a new home, and starting over. So it's pretty fun.
Brilliant.
So I am the Chief Quality Officer for Versiti. And we're a collection of blood banks, organ procurement, diagnostic labs, as well as actually a wholesale pharmacy as well. So there's a number of things that we do. In my career, I've been very lucky, and I use that word very particularly because I think it does take a lot of work, a lot of good decisions, but also a little bit of luck mixed in there. I've gotten to work at big pharma and diagnostics, as well as down to startups, where I was the only person in the organization starting the quality group.
Brilliant.
Been in R&D and very much like Evelyn, kind of over the entire life cycle of the product. And now kind of my sweet spot is quality and regulatory, although I am also the VP over health technology management. So all of the validations and equipment, IOPQ type of activities, as well as safety and security. So I have run environmental health and safety before. Security is new for me. So as we keep growing in our careers, we keep taking on new things we've never done before. So happy to be part of this program.
Love that. And we really appreciate both of your support in Lift Up and over the last couple of weeks as well. It's great to have you part of the community. So we've got a couple of questions that I'll probably just ask you both, if that's okay, before we get into some Q&A, I think, from the audience. But we're getting a lot of interaction here, Rosie, which is brilliant.
I've got a few more people saying hello. We've got Vanessa Kemp. Hi, Vanessa. I actually know her. We've worked together in the past. She's coming in from Northern America for Piramal. She's really looking forward to connecting. We've got someone from the UK here, International Healthcare Advisor. Welcome, Miraz. Mirielle from Houston, Texas. Obviously great to join the community. Let's see. We've got a lot of people coming in. I'm obviously going to get through as many comments as I can today. We've got
another New Jersey as well. I was just going to say we seem to have quite a few people I can see in the New Jersey area. But sorry, Rosie.
I was just going to say thank you all so much for getting involved and engaging with the live. I will reiterate, obviously, please do put a capital Q before your questions so we can make sure we get to them all. And remember to hashtag Lift Up as well and help spread the word when people are searching for this sort of community.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. So, Lexi, I'll come to you first, if you don't mind answering. So, why have you agreed to be a part of this Lift Up community? You know, why is it important to you? Is my sort of first question to yourself. And also, I guess, what is your kind of interpretation and definition of what a mentor is? I think that, you know, the topic of today's discussion is quite around the sort of mentorship, the sponsorship, the coaches, something that really kind of became a hot topic and came out of the last live event last September. So if you don't mind sort of answering, you know, why Lift Up's important to you and ultimately kind of your definition of what a mentor is.
Sure, absolutely. Well, when I was asked to be part of this program, it was interesting. I was actually in the middle of a move and received a phone call, and I said, oh, this wasn't the phone call I thought I was answering. And so it kind of took me off guard, as most things in life do, I guess. You know, and immediately my response was, absolutely, I can't talk about it today, but let's talk about it tomorrow, right? The moving truck isn't coming until 9. And really, it's just, you can't do it alone, right? I think that we try to, or at least I know I do. I'm not great at asking for help. I'm not, you know, I'm great at saying I'm sorry, but I'm not great at asking for that help or even necessarily always knowing when I need it. And so you build these relationships and you build these, you know, events and these adventures and these experiences. And through them, you know, you really do have the help that you need, or the guidance you need, or the relationship or advice that you can go to when the time comes. And really, no matter how old we are, no matter what we've done, we continue to need those relationships. You know, I mentioned that security is new for me, right? Moving to the Midwest by myself, I've never lived alone before, right? And so, you know, over the last 6 months alone, I realized, you know, just how much you really do need other people. And it's wanting and needing and finding that balance between them.
Okay. Great advice. Great insight there as well, Lexi. So your definition of a mentor, it's like that relationship build. Would you say it's quite different from being a manager perhaps in a business?
Absolutely. So I believe that really they are different. So coaches versus mentors versus managers are different. So managers, sometimes you can pick them, right, if you interview. I've also seen people interview and get a job with a manager, and by the time they start the job, there's a different manager, right? And so they're never quite set. But a mentor is somebody that you can pick. You find the right person who has those things that you might want or need. And they can be a variety of things. But it's really for that long term. It's two people who really do, and the relationship is the key word here for me, but it's mutual, right? What can you grow from each other? What experiences can you share? As a mentor, you can be getting experiences maybe from somebody who's younger, or in a different experience, different industry even, or a different part of the world, and learn things. And from a mentee, you're getting a lot of that experience that you don't have otherwise, and maybe developing or learning new things.
Yeah, no, 100%. Thank you for that. I completely and utterly agree. I think that probably resonates with many. So Evelyn, a similar question. Why did you want to become a part of the Lift Up community? What kind of drew you to do this, and why are you passionate about it, as I know that you are? And then also, any recommendations, I guess, if somebody's looking to find a mentor or be a mentee for the first time, what kind of real significant questions, in that first session when you're kickstarting it, what's a really important question to ask, or kind of initial question or way to go about it from the beginning? Bit of advice,
thank you.
I guess.
Of course. And, I'm super passionate about these kind of events, especially when, coming into Lift Up for me is an opportunity to really connect with many people. And I think one of my passions or my goals in life is to impact as many people as I can in trying to help others. I think we need the community. I think we are many, but we are not together, right, enough. And I think this bring us together from different points of view. And this is for women and men. I think it's all of us, because we're all part of the same community, and we all have the same paradigms when it comes to women in science and how we grow up, and cultures play a big role. So for me, being part of LIFT is just an opportunity to give back, and to also receive and have that sense of community. So being here today is just part of one of the things I do. I am very active. You can see that on my LinkedIn, on different forums, because I do believe in what I'm doing here. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm super happy to be here. And then the other, to your question, I think when you're looking for a mentor, first of all, you have to think about what are you looking for the mentor for? And what stage of your career you are, and what does that mentor relationship may look like for you. And so for me, is identifying that, so then you can select who are the people around you or that you can connect with that could do that for you. And sometimes, the best way is either on the coffee machine, right? When you're closer to the people. But sometimes it's also just sending an email and being brave enough to say, hey, I would like to connect with you, just to get to know the person. And then you can start asking the question, do you mind being my mentor? And I think we have to ask the question. I particularly super busy with my job. I have significant amount of work, and I mentor at least 5 people, different levels in the organization. And it's not because I'm part of a program, it's because they have come and asked, and I have the time to actually do it, right? So I think that's what I would say that you should do first.
And I think you're absolutely right. That authenticity, that kind of organic, humble kind of relationship approach. I think that if there isn't that kind of open, honest transparency, that relationship element is absolutely key, isn't it? Otherwise, I just don't think that it could ever get maximized almost to its full potential. So that's really insightful. Thank you. I'm sure we've got some great questions coming in.
We have.
Well.
Christy says, yes, it's all about building your circle, which we totally agree with.
Yes.
We've got questions flying in, some of them very similar to what we've just spoke about. But here is a really interesting question from Emma. For young women in business, how do you identify potential mentors and build that relationship when you're still early in your career? Now, Evelyn, you just previously touched on that slightly, but Lexia, I'd love to understand what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so I think that there's a couple of ways to go about this. So, and I'm going to note on the word here, early in your career. So one of the things is, if you have internship programs in your organization or in foundations that you might volunteer at, et cetera, I would really advise that you get a mentor for these folks immediately. I know that when I was an intern, I certainly had a mentor up at UMass. And every time we have internship programs, I make sure that that's a part of the interns in my group or being otherwise. Whether it's making connections for folks, writing them a recommendation, maybe if you get to know them, giving them advice of, have you ever heard about this program or this training or this certification? So I do think that there's different time points. I think organizations also have mentor programs that you might not know about, whether they're executives mentoring other people who are maybe high potential type of activities, or maybe DE&I activities where there's mentorship programs. And then there's others where maybe you go to a conference and you just absolutely are energized and captivated by somebody who presented. Approach them afterwards, or connect with them on LinkedIn, or follow them for their advice. Right? Sometimes these things can be very formal, and sometimes it's informal, right? I had this situation. Do you have somebody that you would recommend? Or do you have somebody that you've worked with who could be a mentor? The person that you reach out with doesn't always have to be that person. It's finding those right connections. And I do agree, it's all about building your circle. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got, and this was from, I did have an executive coach, and that was a fantastic experience for me. And she gave me an assignment once, and she said, make connections. And she actually assigned me, like, every week, I want you to make 5 connections. She said, but here's the challenge. Do not make a connection with the people that are in your first line, your first connections. She said, they're already your connections. If you already know them, you already work with them, or if you don't, then they're just other people. But the people beyond them, the people that are connections of your connections, and do it before you need somebody. Do it as a normal, organic part of your experience in your life.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's really insightful. That's a great bit of advice. Lexi, thank you. Is there anything that you could add to that, Evelyn, do you think?
Yeah, I think the one only thing I would say, if you're very early in your career, super early, and you feel like you don't know anybody, your peers can be your mentors. And I think that's immediate close to you. You build those relationships because you're closer to them, and probably they have different levels of experience and expertise, and they will love to be your peer mentor, and you could be a peer mentor to them. So that's a practice way of starting it. And as you move in your career, as you grow, then you can start seeking for other people in other circles that have other experiences that can bring into you some stories and things that will help you define your ways of working and how you want to act or behave in a certain place. So I think it's available. We just need to go and reach it.
Go and grasp it. Yeah. No, I love that.
I've actually been recently working in the process chemistry space, which is obviously a heavily male-dominated industry. But I have to say, the people I talk to are still connected with their friends they did their postdoc with, and they're all in different organizations now. They're still connected. They help each other grow within the space. But it is crucial, you're right, to make those connections initially. So further down the line, they're there. Now, I just did really interesting comments just come in. Obviously, great comments, Lexi. Here, but it says it touches on the first question. So is it ever too late to be mentored? Just curious, as I've had industry experience for over 20 years and I have identified that I need some more experiences. Evelyn, I'll ask you first. Is it ever too late?
Yes. No, this is a great question. I think there's always, you always should look for it, right? And again, the difference between a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor is what you're looking for. And your mentor will help you navigate your experiences. So let's say you're a leader, as 20 years of experience, you're managing you're coming into a new role. Let's say you're coming into a higher level role than before, and you don't know how you should be managing at that level because you've never been that level, right? So you cannot just assume I know. And then you can think about, okay, who can I talk to that can have had this kind of experience so I can talk to, and maybe have the circle of trust so I can ask questions that can help me think about how I want to do it. Not that they will tell you how to do it, but they will help you think about what you can do. And I think that is super necessary. On the other hand, if you're looking for a sponsor, which is somebody that will promote you and seek for your career to advance, which is what they are for, they are different, because the sponsor is, again, the person that will know you as a person, will know you as a leader, will know your capabilities in terms of how good you deliver or not results. And then that person can put their stamp for you. And that is a big thing, right? But also, and the most important one, I think, is the sponsor has to have a seat at the table where the decisions are made for the next job you want. Because otherwise, they cannot necessarily sponsor you, right? So those are the things I would consider when I think about timing is never a thing. You always need them. And the coaches, I think Lexi mentioned this, I also had executive coaches. I also have other type of coaches. I think there is a moment where we have to recognize we need something else. And in my more recent experience, I was working with specifically because I am in a different level and I'm coming into a different group. I wanted to make sure my communication style was being effective and appropriate. And I needed to understand how they understand the message I'm sending and how am I sending them, because it's a different group of people and it's a different take to it. So my coach helped me how to figure that out. But that's coaching
nice.
for me to develop a skill. Is not my
Yes.
sponsor, is not my mentor. So I think we need to really understand how to get there.
Establish that. Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. I think that's really important, an important point there. We've got so many coming through. I'm conscious that we want to try and get through as many questions as possible. But just very quickly, we've got so much geographical reach, and I know a lot of people really want to connect here, which is great. So Danielle, thank you so much for joining from Massachusetts. We've got Emma in Rhode Island. We've got Kristen from Ohio. Thank you, so much for joining us. Another one, Sophie from New Jersey. We seem to have an awful lot from New Jersey at the moment, and I think a great question here, which I had seen just come through from Grace Bolton. What should your initial mentor meeting look like? Great question, Grace. Lexi, do you want to give us your kind of intake and advice with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and tying into the last question as well, you're never too old because your experiences and your needs keep changing.
Yeah.
And I would say it's not about age. I would say it's about your need. And tying it into this question is that initial alignment of what are we both looking for, right? What do we have that we can share with each other? And what are we looking to move forward to? Is there a situation that you need help with? Is there a skill that you need help with? It could be somebody who is getting divorced for the first time, and they're learning how to navigate being, a single mom who has children in school, but how do you get out of that meeting on time to get there, right?
Yeah.
So it can be work, but it can also cross over into the personal pieces. Kind of also saying, how often do we want to meet? What is the cadence? What works well for us? Is there a time? Do you want to meet on Zoom or Teams like this? Or are you close to me? Can we get coffee? I've also seen people kind of like send each other, breakfast or have it delivered to the house, and they virtually eat breakfast together, things like that.
I love that.
They find that thing that is in common to them. Not every relationship ends up being a long-term mentor relationship, right? So you have to have that right chemistry and be able to make that time, right? Some people want to make the time and can't. But when you find that mentor, and some of the best things look like building that trust, and Evelyn said that trust and being able to openly speak to each other. The higher in an organization you go, the less you kind of have people that you can talk to or should talk to about stuff at work, right? So who are your vaults, right? Who can you talk to? Maybe somebody who doesn't know the particular situation or doesn't know everybody you're talking about. And maybe that's even better because they're impartial, they're unbiased.
Yeah.
They're not part of whatever is going on that you want to talk about.
Yeah.
So I think finding kind of those, I don't want to call them ground rules because that's not what mentoring is about, right? But just that common alignment of who are we, and the rest of the world kind of doesn't matter. This is our relationship. And then what are we going to do with it in our lives?
Yeah. Appreciate that. I think that's a great, sometimes looking at that kind of end goal from the beginning, what it is that you want to get out of it, and then reverse engineering and starting with the basic questions first. But no, it's a great bit of advice. Is there anything from you, Evelyn, in regards to add to that?
Yeah, so maybe a very practical concept here is, there's tools out there that can help you figure out what the first meeting looked like. Just go and look. But it's mainly three things. Get to know each other, very important. So that's the initial piece and how we build that conversation. Number two, have clear, try to have by that meeting at least what are your goals, and establish that arrangement or agreements on how frequent you're going to meet. and how long the relationship should look like. And then when we will revisit our arrangement to maintain that confidentiality and time work. That's all I'm going to add to what Lexi
That's
said.
brilliant. Thank you, Evelyn. It's an interesting concept that I think from someone who, is maybe earlier in their career, it's quite a daunting question to ask. Will you be my mentor? Or, asking for help. You don't want to seem like you're not capable or you're not doing good enough. So I can appreciate that. One question we always get quite a lot in the comments feed, and we've had it today, and we ask most of our guests, is what is one piece of advice that has stuck with you throughout your career from someone influential? It could be a coach, it could be a sponsor, and it could be a mentor. I'll head your way first, Evelyn, and then I'll come to you next, Lexi.
No, thank you. There's different number of people through my career that have done that. I think I can share with you one that probably is a more a coaching moment, but also became one of the things I used to mentor as well, right? So I think it's why I'm going to mention that. So very early in my career, I made a mistake. I don't even remember. Don't ask me. Something I did really wrong. And my boss was in the UK at the time. He came back. And when he came back, he sit down with me and talked to me and said, at the moment as a coach, he said, let's talk about what happened. And I remember telling him, and I was with my head down, and he looked at me and said, please look at me. And I look at him. And then he said, is this going to, I just want you to know that I'm glad you acknowledged what happened. Mm-hmm. I want you to know also that this cannot ever happen again. He looked at me in the eye, and then he said, now we're going to go out together and we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
And then we went out and we fixed it. And then for me, the key learning there for me was, I have to have my teams back. I have to give them feedback immediately. I have to make sure that I give people the opportunity to really learn. And when I'm mentoring teams and all coaching people, it's one of the things I will share with them is that experience or other experiences where I really have grown or make me grow enough to never forget them.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Lexi, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, so it's funny when you asked this question, immediately I knew the answer, right? Some of these you kind of have to think about. I was probably 23, right? Like right out of college, maybe my first employee review. I'm not exactly even sure who said it, but I remember the words exactly. And the words were this: every year you should be looking at what you're doing, and you should either be doing your job differently or doing a different job. Okay. And that has stuck with me. I won't tell you how old.
Yeah.
It has stuck with me that, even when we think we're an expert, even when you're in first place, even when you're the top company, even when you're the chief quality officer,
yes,
that's getting you the job.
Yeah.
They have to do it. They have to grow more. Now you have to continue to evolve.
Yes.
What worked 6 months ago isn't going to work 6 months from now. And 100%. So, and if you're not changing, if you're not learning, then you have to do something differently.
100%. I think that's a really good bit of advice. Something I've always personally taken with me as well. It's no matter what level you're at, it's never being able to, or never being afraid to ask, and to ask for advice. Something here that our chief commercial officer at Fraser Dove, he's put here: the best mentor I've ever had was great at tough love. They gave me what I needed to hear rather than what I wanted to hear. And I just thought that was a really interesting, resonated with me. So I think that's a great comment. We've got some great questions that are still coming through. I think we've got one here as well from Christine. What is the best advice we can give to our consultants who are seeking mentorship and growth in their careers during their current contracts? This is an interesting one. Many feel it is harder to seek this out during our new remote world, and something I've had quite a few conversations with, obviously, with Lift Up in the last few weeks, but obviously since COVID as well, is this kind of remote virtual world. How would you, great question from Christine, but also wrapping this into the topic of mentorships and sponsorships and coaches, virtually. How are you finding that's working, especially from, building that relationship piece, which is obviously so important to do?
Yeah, so maybe I can start. So I think on that end, I mean, it's hard when you are remote because, everybody, especially if you're a consultant, you're everywhere in a little bit with one client, then maybe with the other. But I think it's also creating the opportunity, right? So what forums can you create to allow that to happen in a different kind of way? And something I do, I have people around the world, everywhere in the world. And some of the things I committed myself to do was to do some coffee chats every month. And I will be communicating with the people in China one day a month. And it's just a 30 minutes call, few people on the phone with me, open conversations, anything on your mind. But what it gives you the opportunity to start meeting people more personally. And I think once you do that, that's the first step to allow you to then identify who could be that person that you can connect more. And you can be prompting questions. This exercise that we're doing right now is opening that door, I would say, for everyone to identify who from this team here, people connected, people speaking, can be those that we can reach out or can refer us to somebody else that can be reached out. I think is another opportunity. So try to find a way to create that moment, that place where you can bring people together. Either it's from your client, other consultants working with you, or a combination of those, because you never know when that can happen. And then prompt the questions so you can then figure out if there is a match that is going to work for you.
I love that.
Great bit of advice. Yeah. And Lexi, what are your thoughts with that? Is there anything that you could add?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of an interesting experience last year where my last position was completely remote. I never met anybody that I worked with. So that was really very, very interesting, right? Completely COVID and remote. But then, my mom actually got very sick. And so I knew I was selling the house. I knew I was going to move. I just didn't know where or what. So, I had 5 months off, and it was interesting because I think that's when I did the most kind of searching for mentors that I've probably ever done. Like I've always had one or two here and there, but just kind of reached out to people or even just sent messages saying, I saw that you do this. I'd appreciate any advice that you might have for me. Or, I'm thinking about consulting, and I did. I opened an LLC. Right? Because I did some consulting. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this home management thing again and, recreate the quality system and start from scratch. I really was, kind of saying, hey, I could do a fresh start. And so I did. I just kind of reached out. The biggest advice I would have for somebody, whether you're asking someone to be a mentor or asking advice or experience, is don't ask a yes or no question. Right?
Wow.
So if you say, hey, will you be my mentor? It's super easy for someone without even thinking about it going, I really don't have time. I appreciate you asking me. That really means a lot to me. But, right, versus I'm really looking for a mentor to help me identify opportunities to get on a board of directors or be part of a foundation, ... whatever it is you're looking for. And that person may say, I am, or I have, or I know, or I recommend you reach out to so-and-so, right? And then you have kind of a name even to say, hey, Evelyn mentioned that I could reach out to you, or somebody in your network, right? And then, kind of just continuing that.
Yeah, I like that. That's a nice, great bit of advice and a nice way to go about it, definitely. Interestingly, with what you said there, when you did go out to find your, a mentor, what was your first initial approach? Was it, I'm going to go and try and find somebody within the organization that I'm currently working within, somebody that maybe understands my industry, my practice, my sector, wherever it might be? Or did your initial reaction go to the wider, and somebody that you've perhaps never interacted with before? What was your kind of initial reaction?
Yeah, so it wasn't people that were very close in my network because they already knew my situation. They knew my mom was passing, right? I didn't want it to be about that.
Yes.
I wanted it to be about me. So the first I had gone to was, some people that I knew in my network, but had changed maybe industries or companies, and said, what was it like for you? You relocated. What was that like? How did you meet people there? Or is it that you have young children, or do you know people who were there? And so, I kind of started going through my connections going, I haven't reached out to this person in a while, but I noticed that day, right? And then reached out to learn about their experiences. And there were some things I thought I might want to do. And I went, oh, that's not for me. That's not what
Yeah.
I'm doing.
Okay.
And then the other thing was, I still do stay in touch with, recruiters or searches and things like that.
Yes.
Not that I'm looking for other jobs, but that, people who are kind of out there helping other people get a pulse of what's happening in the industry. So whether
Yes.
it's I'm hiring or something is super changed and
Mhm.
I've been in the same job for 10 years, you can't lose sight of what's actually happening
in the market. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great bit of advice.
I wanted to bring in probably our last question. We are 5 minutes left.
Wow.
It's
Oh
been
my goodness.
a discussion that always whizzes by, and thank you so
Isn't
much
it?
for the engagement. If there's any last minute quick questions, chuck them in the feed now. Otherwise, forever hold your peace.
Wait till next time.
Yeah, wait till next month. But we've got a brilliant question here from
Mhm.
Maureen. Welcome, Maureen. Thanks for joining. But how has mentorship and sponsorship played a role in your professional development?
Great question.
I guess during time limits, we'll give you 30 seconds each to
Super quick.
summarize.
Yeah, no problem. I think the answer is, it's been necessary and amazing, in different moments, pivotal changes that you make in your career. Having that mentor is the key to help you surpass that change. Um, Keeping the same mentors is for a long time is very valuable because they know you, they know your story, and they probably have been through things that you have been as well. For me, my mentors helped me figure out number one, that I own my career. Number two, what is the best way to decide what is the next level job that you want or the next job you want, and whether or not that helps you promote your career to where you want to go at the end of the day. And it also helped me understand the difference between being an executive, to the level I am today versus being, an employee or being a manager, and actually how to contribute in different ways to different populations, right? Because everything you say makes a difference. So for me, closing it out is really pivotal in my development, different points in my career, different mentors, but all of them for a long, long time. And I can go back to them.
Yeah, that's lovely. I love that. No, that's
Thank
great.
you.
And have you got anything quickly to add to that, Lexi?
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on the sponsorship. So sponsorship is really quite different. So for me, my sponsors are the people who are my promoters, who are going to speak for me. When they speak, I know what they're taught, that they're representing me,
Yes.
that they're aligned with what we're doing. They really are your first line. They're the people that you align with, and they go out and act on your behalf. The mentorship is that internal piece, that relationship between people.
Yes, absolutely. No, I think
Brilliant.
that's great. I can't quite believe that pretty much 45 minutes has flown by already. So just to round up, we want to thank everybody here for joining us today. The community that is logged in pretty much across the globe is phenomenal. The amount of questions are great. If we haven't answered any of your questions, Rosie and I and the ambassadors of the Lift Up team, we will try to navigate through some of these questions and try to at least respond to them maybe on our Lift Up page. If you haven't already signed up to our Lift Up page, please do so, because also within that we will be putting out all of our kind of new initiatives, which very excitingly, we've got a podcast which is going to be launching next Wednesday, the 9th of November, with Sophie Packer, an ambassador of our Lift Up team. Super excited about. We've got our whole first series already underway. Recordings already happening. We've got a list of podcast attendees already lined up. Pretty much our series 1 is almost completed in terms of sign up, but anybody that is interested in getting involved in this live Lift Up live event or podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out to the Lift Up team. So is there anything I've missed, Rosie?
Yeah, I would just say thank you so much for joining. Thank you to Evelyn and Lexi.
100%.
Going live like this is an amazing forum, and it really gives visibility and access to individuals who have done the career journey themselves.
Yes.
and can offer such wise and wonderful wisdom on, those earlier in their career as well. Of course, next month we go live again. It is the Christmas special. We're going to be doing an Ask the C-Suite. So we're going to have C-Suite representatives across the value chain, including a Lift Up ally, who is a male advocate for females in leadership. And it's going to be, again, an amazing, awesome time. So thank you so much, everyone. And I hope wishing you well.
Thank you. I'm so glad you could join as well from Frankfurt, Rosie. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, community. Thanks, key speakers. And we'll see you again next month. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.